In a development that has intensified tensions in the East China Sea, Tokyo and Beijing found themselves locked in a diplomatic exchange this week after Japan reaffirmed its policy on Taiwan and China made clear its opposition to a new US arms package for the island. Japan's government declared its position unchanged, reaffirming the 1972 agreement with China, even as it reiterated concern over regional security. China, meanwhile, called the US arms sale a violation of fundamental principles and declared it firmly opposed to Washington's move. Tokyo's message came after Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi addressed the issue in Parliament and was followed by a formal protest from Beijing. At the heart of the dispute lies Taiwan, a self-governing democracy that the PRC regards as its own territory, and the broader question of how Japan, the US and China navigate overlapping security interests in the Asia-Pacific. In Tokyo, Chief Cabinet Secretary Minoru Kihara underscored that Japan's stance on Taiwan remains unchanged. He stressed that the country adheres to the One China policy and reiterated Japan's desire for the Taiwan issue to be resolved peacefully and through dialogue. In Parliament, Prime Minister Takaichi emphasized Tokyo's responsibility to anticipate worst-case scenarios around the island and said that if a Chinese military move around Taiwan involved warships or force, it could constitute a situation threatening Japan's survival. Her remarks, however, were later framed as hypothetical and cautionary in tone. Despite the strong language, the government in Tokyo stuck to its diplomatic script. It pointed to the 1972 joint communiqué between Japan and China, under which Japan states that it understands and respects Beijing's position that Taiwan is an inalienable part of the PRC, while also emphasizing peaceful resolution of disputes. Japan's reaffirmation comes at a time of sweeping military modernization in the region and with a growing recognition in Tokyo that its strategic environment is evolving, even if publicly it remains anchored to long-standing commitments. Beijing responded forcefully. The Chinese Foreign Ministry characterized the US-Taiwan arms deal as a serious violation of the One China principle and a dangerous interference in China's internal affairs. China lodged a formal diplomatic protest and demanded that Japan reflect on how its remarks could be interpreted as providing support for Taiwanese independence. China also pointed to a recent social media message by its consul general in Osaka as proof of rising frustration in Beijing. Russian and Chinese experts say the episode illustrates how China is increasingly willing to publicly call out Japan for any signals intended or not that appear to diverge from Tokyo's traditional strategic ambiguity on Taiwan. For Beijing, any suggestion that Japan might consider deploying its self-defense forces in response to cross-strait developments is deeply provocative. The Chinese side made clear that they oppose any external military involvement in the Taiwan Strait, whether that is by the US, Japan, or any other actor. Turning to Washington, the US has approved a proposed arms sale valued at approximately $330 million. The deal encompasses spare parts and maintenance support for Taiwan's fleet of F-16 and C-130 aircraft, key components of the island's air defense infrastructure. The Pentagon said the sale will improve the recipient's capability to meet current and future threats by maintaining the operational readiness of the recipient's fleet of F-16, C-130 and other aircraft. Taiwan's defense ministry welcomed the announcement, saying the package will enhance its air defense resilience and responsiveness to what it calls Beijing's grey zone incursions. Beijing was swift to condemn the agreement. Chinese officials asserted that the sale challenges the stability of the Taiwan Strait and undermines China-US relations. Analysts note this transaction marks the first such arms sale to Taiwan since President Donald Trump returned to office in January 2025, a signal of continuity in US support for Taiwan despite broader shifts in US-China diplomacy. Japan's geographical proximity to Taiwan underscores the strategic weight of the dispute. The westernmost Japanese island of Yonaguni lies just over 100 kilometers from Taiwan's eastern shores, meaning any naval or aerial operation in the Taiwan Strait has direct implications for Japan's security and supply routes. Experts say Tokyo is keenly aware of the scenario in which a Taiwan contingency could draw Japan into a security crisis. Japan's 2015 security legislation expanded the conditions under which the self-defense forces can act in collective self-defense, including support for allies. While Tokyo has historically maintained strategic ambiguity about how it would respond to a Taiwan contingent by raising the possibility of involvement, Prime Minister Takaichi touched a sensitive nerve in Beijing. The US, for its part, remains Taiwan's primary military supplier under the Taiwan Relations Act of 1979 and associated assurances. The new arms sale follows a string of previous deals and reflects Washington's ongoing commitment to help Taiwan maintain a viable defense posture. China, meanwhile, is seeking to deter any formal Taiwanese independence push and any external military support for the island. Beijing regards US arms sales as part of a strategy to sustain a Taiwan status quo China deems unacceptable, namely sustained separation under de facto independence. This conflation of military, diplomatic and strategic threads means that even relatively modest arms transactions carry high symbolic value. For Japan, reaffirming its position while contemplating new security demands marks a delicate balancing act between alliance obligations, notably with the USET and its economic ties with China. For China, any divergence from previous Japanese ambiguity is viewed through the prism of provoking separatism or encouraging Taiwan to seek overt external backing. The US decision to proceed with the arms sale emphasizes that Washington is prioritizing Taiwan's defense readiness, even amid its broader China policy recalibration. Taiwan officials argue that maintaining the air defense and readiness of key aircraft is foundational to deterrence, and that such deliveries must keep pace with China's growing military footprint in the region. From a broader lens, the episode underscores the fragility of the Taiwan Strait as a potential flashpoint. The interplay between Japan's potential role, China's red lines, and the US defense commitments means the stakes stretch well beyond the immediate actors. Changes in one country's posture, whether Japanese, American or Chinese, could ripple across the region and alter calculations for all. In the coming weeks and months, several indicators will bear close attention. Whether Japan issues further clarifications or adjustments to its Taiwan policy, and how Tokyo frames any future remarks about the island in Parliament or in foreign policy statements. How China translates its diplomatic protest into concrete actions, whether via military maneuvers near Taiwan or increased pressure on Japanese business or diplomatic channels. The pace of delivery of the US-approved arms package and Taiwan's assessment of its operational impact for readiness. Any engagements or consultations among Japan, the US and Taiwan on combined scenarios or security coordination in the East China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. Broader diplomatic signals, for example, whether the US reiterates its support for the status quo, whether Japan reaffirms its one China policy, and whether China chooses escalation or dialogue. In reaffirming its Taiwan policy, Japan has sought to maintain continuity, yet its recent language has drawn Beijing's ire and raised new questions about Tokyo's security calculus. The US arms sale to Taiwan underscores Washington's enduring commitment to the island's defense, while also illustrating how even components and spare parts deals can spark major geopolitical reactions. For all three players, Tokyo, Beijing and Washington, this is more than a diplomatic spat. It is a signal about how they envisage their roles in a shifting Asia-Pacific security landscape. As the Taiwan Strait remains a possible flashpoint of regional tension, the importance of clarity, restraint and credible deterrence cannot be overstated.